there are some words we use every single day. Words so common, you just can't imagine anyone owning them. Well, today we're jumping into a legal detective story where one of those exact words sparked a massive, high-stakes battle between two brands. And this is the big question at the heart of it all. Can a company really, truly own a word like wow? I mean, it's an expression, an emotion. How can you trademark that? That's the puzzle the Delhi High Court had to solve.
All right, so let's set the scene and meet the players in this showdown.
In this corner, you've got the heavyweight, Wow Momo, a huge, very well-known food company. And in the other corner, the challenger, Wow Burger, a brand new player just about to launch. So, as you can imagine, when Wow Momo got wind of Wow Burger, they went straight to court to shut them down, arguing that the word wow belonged to them and only them.
Now, when you first look at this, it seems like a total slam dunk for Wow Momo. They came in with what looked like an absolutely unbeatable argument.
And you can see why they were so confident. I mean, look at their history. They've been around since 2008. They've grown into an absolute powerhouse with more than 600 outlets and a valuation north of 1,200 crores. This isn't some small shop. They are a major force in the market.
And here's the core of their argument. They said wow wasn't just a part of their name. It was the heartbeat of their entire brand, the essential, the dominant, the most recognizable piece of their identity. Their claim was simple. When people see wow, they think of us, period. And to back this up, they showed the court how they'd built an entire family of brands around that single word. You had things like Wow China. Then they expanded into other areas with a Wow Chippin', and eventually pulled it all together under a bigger umbrella, Wow Eats. They were trying to paint a picture that wow was their signature, their thing.
And then, for the knockout punch, they dropped this number, a sales turnover of over 450 crore rupees in just 1 year. With that kind of cash and that kind of market dominance, you'd think, how could they possibly lose?
But this is where our detective story takes a really interesting twist, because the court decided to pull out its magnifying glass and take a much, much closer look. And what it found, well, it changed the whole game. See, once the court started doing its own digging, that seemingly rock-solid case began to crumble, thread by thread. And here it is, the smoking gun. The court found that in Wow Momo's own past trademark applications, they had actually admitted that wow is just a common, everyday dictionary word. They had literally argued themselves that it only becomes unique when you pair it with another word, like Momo. Oof. But it didn't stop there. The court realized they had no trademark for the standalone word wow. In fact, for many of their brands, they had to officially disclaim any right to own the word wow on its own. And get this, their own Wow Burger wasn't even a real brand. It was just a menu item they'd stopped selling years ago. And to top it all off, a quick search showed tons of other food businesses were using the word wow too. So, with their case basically in tatters, the court's final decision came down to a few really important legal ideas that honestly anyone with a brand needs to know. Okay, first up is this concept called a laudatory term. It's a fancy way of saying a word that just praises something. Think best, or super, or wow. The law is pretty clear that you can't just take these words for yourself. They're meant for everyone to use to describe their products. Now, there is one exception to this rule, and it's called secondary meaning. This is the holy grail. It's when you've used a common word so much for so long and so exclusively that the public's mind just snaps to your brand when they hear it. But the court decided that even with all their success, Wow Momo just wasn't there yet. And finally, there's the anti-dissection rule. This just means you can't cherry-pick one word, like wow, and ignore everything else. You have to compare the brands as a whole. And when you do that here, well, the differences are pretty stark. Momo versus burger, totally different. The colors, yellow versus red and white, different. And the food itself, Momos and burgers, come on, nobody is going to get those two confused.
So in the end, the verdict was clear. The court refused to stop Wow Burger. The big takeaway was that Wow Momo could not fence off an everyday word like wow for its own exclusive use.
But this whole thing isn't just a story about food. It's a really powerful lesson for anyone trying to build a brand today. So what can we all learn from this? It really leads to a super practical question, right? If you're building a business and you want to use a catchy, common word, how in the world do you protect yourself? Well, the court's decision basically gives us a playbook. First, know that common words are weak from the start. You have to be extra distinctive. Second, if you're going to go for it, you better be ready to prove that secondary meaning we talked about. And third, and this is probably the smartest play, combine and conquer. Pair that common word with a unique logo, different colors, and other words to build a brand that's not just memorable, but actually protectable under the law.
And that leaves me with one last thought to chew on. After wow, what's the next common word that's going to end up in a courtroom? Best? Maybe fresh or happy. This case proves the fight over our language is just getting started, and it really makes you wonder, what's going to be the next big brand battle?